Everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Bulletproof Entrepreneur Podcast. My special guest today is Abdo Riani. Abdo is the founder of Startupcircle. It's an online platform where he helps entrepreneurs execute on their ideas and grow their ventures through a network of like-minded entrepreneurs and tools. He's also the founder of Aspire IT, a startup development studio for non-technical founders. And recently, Abdo launched the Bootstrapping Summit, where he interviewed and hosted over 100 well-known entrepreneurs and interviewed them to get their lessons of how to bootstrap appropriately to grow their businesses. So I could read out the names of who he had on his program. It's a list of who's who that we all know in the online world, but I'll let Abdo talk about that later. And believe it or not, Abdo is also a Ph.D. candidate in the University of Texas system. So I'm pleased to have him on the show today to tell us a little bit about his entrepreneurial journey, how he got started, and of course, everything we need to learn to take advantage of online summits and events, as well as how to bootstrap your business appropriately in order to achieve that overnight success that you want to achieve. So with that said, Abdo, welcome to the show.
Gee, thank you very, very much for having me on, and thanks for the intro.
My pleasure, Abdo. So before we get into the show, you have a very unique and unusual name. It's Abdo Riani. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Absolutely. So I was born in Tunisia. It's a pretty small and beautiful country in North Africa. I came to the United States at the age of 18. I was recruited to come play tennis. Before then, I had played internationally as a junior tennis player. I represented the country, and I went and traveled and played in many other nations. I came to study and play tennis, represent the university as well. 4 years later, I graduated and was offered an assistantship to pursue my MBA. The same thing happened as soon as I finished my MBA. I was offered to continue with my PhD. But ever since I was a sophomore in college, I've always had passion for business, and I wanted to execute on my ideas and start as soon as possible. Everybody asked me to wait until I finished my bachelor's at least. And I thought to myself, I have time, I have energy, maybe I don't have funding, but at least I can do things to build value and at least educate myself. So I started my first venture back, when I was a sophomore, as I mentioned, and I've always had passion for startups. To me, it was unbelievable how a few lines of code can make such a big impact on people's lives. You don't really need a lot of money to build a technological solution or a tech-based solution to solve a problem. And that's what I wanted to focus on. So I launched Recycler Spotter. Recycler Spotter rewarded users for their eco-friendly actions. The way it worked was, if you have some things to recycle, you go to one of those recycling facilities that we've partnered with. Once you recycle, we give you points. You take those points and you redeem them for rewards from local businesses. Those are businesses that we've built partnerships with as well. Now, the challenging part was the funding. Now, It is true that one of the advantages of starting a startup that you don't necessarily need a lot of money, especially in the beginning, but you need a little bit of money. When I was a student, I had a scholarship that was just enough for me to go to school and to pay for my monthly expenses, but I didn't really have any other extra funding to fund the initial stages of the business. So I found a way to pre-sell the product and generate about $2,000 in monthly recurring revenue about 6 months before I even launched the application. I did things that don't scale. I went to to recycling facilities and local businesses. I told them, what I'm going to do right now is exactly what I'm going to do when this application is going to be launched. But now I'm going to do it even better because I'm going to be personally involved in promoting you locally and nationally. And would you be interested for that to invest $200 a month? 10 people gave me their confirmation, and here we are. I had the funding to build that solution. Once I built that application, 2 years later, I got it to a point where it's doing very well. But I had so much passion to start other ventures as well. I started Aspire IT, the startup development studio, and that gave me an opportunity to get involved in the launch of many other tech-based solutions with many other entrepreneurs.
Okay. So
Fast forward, what's
hold
up?
on, Abdul. Before you go on any further, let me ask you some quick questions because I took some notes and I don't want to miss some quick lessons
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
you shared thus far. And the first thing is, you mentioned that you did things that don't scale. So I want to know, being a tennis player, being recruited to play tennis for a university, that involves a lot of discipline. I lived with a roommate who was a college football player, and that means you have to meet all your games. You're always on the road. You have to come back, do your schoolwork and everything. And then, of course, you start this business on the side. So tease out some of the lessons you learned while you were pursuing your varsity tennis career, and then how did you apply that into this first venture?
So the biggest lesson is persistence, I guess, right?
Okay.
When you're playing tennis, when you're trying to win, when you're trying to improve yourself, it's not one of those things where you go and practice one day and you have everything figured out. You have to do it every single day for an extended period of time to get results. And I applied that exact same idea in business. I had to deal with uncertainty in that case, though. In business, you deal with uncertainty. In tennis, you look at examples, you look at your coach, you listen to what you have to do, and you just do it. But you then continue doing it for a couple months, and you're good at it. In business, it's all about uncertainty. You just have to react to what new things you learn. Persistence is really the biggest lesson I learned from my athletic career. So I'm going to compare myself to other aspiring entrepreneurs at that time, about 8 years ago, who started businesses with me. The difference was that when they faced the money challenge, when they faced the lack of knowledge challenge, when they faced the lack of mentorship challenge, some of them persisted for a couple months, but then most of them quit. For me, I was like, okay, how can I solve this problem? How can I? And I clearly remember the biggest problem I had at that time was money. At least I thought money was the biggest problem. But then when I dug into it, when I started learning what else I can do with the funding that I have, I realized it's really not the money that is stopping me. It's in delivering the solution that I'm not aware of at that. I could be solving that exact same problem. The problem was that people are not well aware about the environment. People are not recycling enough. So how can I solve the problem of awareness and recycling without needing technology? And all I had to do was literally connect one stakeholder with another stakeholder, and then the first with the third, and I'm solving the problem and delivering the solution. When I approached it that way, non-scalably, that is, without a process that can get to 100,000, 10,000 people without my personal involvement.
Basically, legwork, boots on the ground.
Exactly.
Legwork,
so doing things that don't scale, getting hands dirty.
Yeah.
So getting your hands dirty, you are the most valuable asset of your business. Your human capital is your most valuable asset of the business. So when I approached it that way, I realized that it's really not the money problem. I mean, people will pay you if you're solving the problem. It's true, it's a startup, it's a technology startup, but it doesn't have to be a technology startup that's 100% relying on technology today. It can be. It can rely on technology in the future when it's ready to scale, but in the beginning, you could be solving this problem and doing it personally or by getting your hands dirty. Yeah.
Cool. So did that first startup fail?
That first startup, I guess,
exit?
No, it did not exit. I actually did have a few offers that I did not accept. I thought, it didn't. I at that time had a long thought process about it, and at the end of the day, I thought to myself, you know what? I think it's better if just shut it down than just sell it at the prices that I was given. But before even getting to the point where I was debating whether to exit the startup or not, I was already starting to get involved in other ventures. I found that I was really passionate about the launch of new things. I thought it's unbelievable how you can launch solutions, how from one day to the other almost, if you adopt this non-scalability approach, how from one day to the other, you can launch a solution that makes such a big impact on people's lives. And that's what I really wanted to do every single day. I wanted to start new ventures every single day. And when I got to help and work with 6, 7 entrepreneurs, while working on Recycler Spotter, opportunities started to present themselves, and I had to make a big decision at that time. I said, you know what, I'm going to start and focus exclusively on helping those entrepreneurs launch other ventures, and I want to do it every single day. So passion here is also one very important thing that every entrepreneur should have, because it's the long term. It's what I usually say, you know, success in entrepreneurship is a 10-year overnight success. Yeah. Something I learned from my mentors, but it's really that's what success is about. You can't just get results in a few months, even if you do it every single day.
And now, when you move on to the second venture, which is helping other entrepreneurs, did you face the challenge of people looking at you and saying, hey, you know, you're this young kid in college, you don't have much business experience. Okay, yeah, you had your little startup and then you ran it for 2 years and you closed it. Did you have challenges like that of people trying to, you know, put down your experience because you're relatively young and you're relatively new and still growing your skills? Or was it like, hey, you know what, I can do this, you just believe in me and make things happen? How did you overcome that challenge when it was presented in front of you?
Well, I mean, absolutely, I had those challenges, but here's what I focus on, Chi. I focus on the most viable segment. Okay. So the people that are looking for, here's the thing, Chi, you could be dreaming of working with someone with 40 years experience, but are they really going to work with you one-on-one every single day and help you get the results that you want? Most of the time it won't happen. It won't work that way. Sometimes you want people that they have enough experience, they have seen enough to take you to a point where you want to be and work with you as if you guys are close friends. Okay. And that is my viable segment. That's the most viable segment for me at that time, at least. Now, after I built some traction, after I built some, you know, a bigger portfolio, then the story is different. But I was really looking for the people that I can help, and I know they would want my help, because I was confident I can take them from just a hypothesis or just an idea or just an interest in entrepreneurship to first paying customers. And I just needed to tell them and work with them and do it with them, because I know I can help them and I know that they need a person like me. So when it came to having a conversation with people who were looking for, you know, those with 20 plus years experience when I was, you know, 22 years old, you know, so that was my age. You know, it's not a good fit. So I move on, and that's very important in business in general, because you don't want to have a customer who's, you know, going to be wasting your time and you wasting their time.
Yeah, and I love what you said there, that, you know, sometimes it's just not going to be a good fit. A lot of the times when people start a new business or a new venture, they always think, oh, everybody in my demographic or in my market segment, I can sell to everyone. But you have to realize that even in that space, it gets to the point where you still have to pick out, hey, who's actually going to align with my vision, my mission, and my mindset? And a lot of people might not, but they might still be in your sweet target market. So you have to say, hey, it's not a good fit. Sorry, find somebody else. And then you keep moving. A lot of young entrepreneurs do not realize that, you know what, saying no is also a good thing when you're starting out in business. Is that your experience as well?
Look, Chi, I have worked with with 2 entrepreneurs, and this is maybe my second project with Startupcircle. And to me, you know, a mid-5-figure project, you know, at that time, still today, obviously, you know, was unbelievable. I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to fight for this project. I'm going to take it. You know, even the way I sold myself and I sold my team, the response I got from those entrepreneurs when they had to make you know, a final decision about whom they want to work with, they said the way you described your team and yourself was like, it's a no-brainer. I definitely want to work with you. Gee, that project went for about 6 months and we made almost zero progress. These guys were so picky. They were so picky about the things they wanted. When startup is all about uncertainty, right? Testing hypotheses, going to market quickly, validating qualitatively and quantitatively. But when they, because they did not get that concept, because they did not get that mindset, we did not do any progress. Make any progress. So, had I known what I learned from that experience, I wouldn't have worked with those with this entrepreneur, these two these potential clients. Others probably would have helped them better. But at that time, for me, that was a lesson learned, because then at the end of the day, when you have clients, what you want is results. Because if you can get them results, that's how you're going to get to another level. Yes, you can make a short-term return, but if you don't don't help them get results, you won't be able to get to your other level.
Yeah, very true, very true. And so this consulting business, you did it, you grew it, you worked on it night and day. How did Aspire IT come into reality?
Aspire IT come to reality in a week. It's one of those things that many entrepreneurs, I guess but maybe the words don't know. But if you are looking to sell a service-based solution, you don't pretty much need anything besides whatever experience you have, whatever background you have to go to market. All you need is a well-defined value proposition, a well-defined target segment persona, and how to convey 1 to 2. That's it. That's all I needed. I mean, I did create a landing page. It was a template that I purchased for like $10, and then I customized. But the rest was all taken 1 to 2. And then I, just 2 weeks later, I had my first project.
Wow. So talk a little bit about getting that first client, because I know a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, they really struggle with landing that first client. And you've already said initially that, you did things that don't scale. But I want you to speak to sales and marketing and actually convincing and closing that first client to give you money and say, hey, I want to go into business with you.
Absolutely. So for me, I guess besides my experience with my first startup, but with zero portfolio, what I did at that time was I tried to find channels that have the least friction. So I went onto a freelancing site, and
Hold on a second. Explain that. What do you mean by channels with least friction?
So here's what I was gonna say.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. So channel with the least friction can mean many things, but in my case, or in the case of a service-based business, means that it means a situation where you don't have to fight to convince your value proposition to the client. Okay. So in my case, I think the best way to explain this is by using an example. When I went I said, I think the best way to do that, go to a freelancing site. Here's why. Because people are actually asking for the project. You don't have to convince them that you need the solution. If I cold email the person, I had to explain that their social media, for example, isn't doing as well and they can do better. I had to sell them on the idea of my services. I had to then get on the phone and convince them that I'm the right fit. And then I have to convince them about the pricing. But I wanted to build a portfolio, wanted to start with a freelancing site where people are actually deliberately asking for employees, for contractors. When I did that, it didn't take me too long to convey 1 to 2, the value proposition to the right customer, and then I closed the first project. I did that with a second project. I did that with a third project, all the way until the fifth project. And having built that portfolio, then now I can take different channels, social media, referrals, cold email. I followed multiple channels to acquire the next customers. And then, especially in the service-based business, the referral part makes a big difference.
Okay. And I love how you focused on one channel first, which is the freelancing side. Once you got a good list of clients working with you, you have some revenue coming in, you now branch out to social media and email marketing, because it's really good to have that initial focus early on and say, hey, let me make sure I get customers from this one channel down and then move on, rather than say, I'll be doing freelancing, cold email, what else, social media, chatbots, and what have you, all at the same time, all while you don't have any clients. So I really love that you focused on one particular channel and then you went from there and branched out. So talk a little bit more about helping out your first client, providing solutions, and then the successes you got from that.
Absolutely. So the first client, if I recall correctly, wanted to create a solution to help students get in front of mentors.
Okay.
And that was perfect for me because it is a business model that is very similar to my first startup, Recycle Spotter. There were 3 key stakeholders. There were mentors, students, and the platform. I guess that wouldn't be a stakeholder, but that would be that channel. So this person had in mind or the way they thought about launching this startup was, I need money to build the platform. I need money to market it. I need money to run it. That was exactly what I had when I started my first venture. Yeah. And that was exactly what I tried to overcome when I launched my first venture. So we started doing things that don't scale. All we had to do was actually not even a website, but we did create a small website, is have a website that had a list of mentors whom we contacted from local chambers of commerce, from SCORE, which is an organization, from the university. And after we had those first 10 people, 10 mentors, all we had to do was just get them in front of the right people. Yeah. And in the beginning, when you're looking after your first customers, it's very, or users, it's very, very important that you ignore every channel you have in mind. The only channel that would work for your first customers is when you hand recruit those customers. In the beginning, don't focus on anything else. I can give you countless examples. Groupon, for example, when they got the first deal, they went in the building where their office was located, and then they knocked on every office and told them, here's the offer that we have for today from this pizza shop. Would you be interested in buying it? Countless other examples I can share with you that follow this idea of your first customers are hand recruited. So we went to business incubators. We went to the local chamber of commerce. We went to meetups. We went to anywhere we can find a group of entrepreneurs who need mentorship and who want to be connected with a mentor. We had the first 200 users in about maybe 3 weeks, and then the channel or the distribution channel was simply email. So we send them every week. Lists of mentors are available for an hour or two, and we tell them if you want to work with this mentor for this hour, all you have to do is just email us and we'll connect you with them. Now, what this entrepreneur wanted to do in the beginning was a platform that allowed you to create an account, to verify your status, to connect you with the mentor automatically, to link with Skype, to record the session, to schedule calendars and all those things. We got rid of all of that. And that's how we went to our first users. Now, having done that and having had some traction, we went to the same chamber, we went to the same organizations and told them, would you be interested in sponsoring this cause, this venture that we're doing? And there you go. Just 2 weeks later, the guy is generating about maybe $1,500 from sponsors. And, he's accomplished my goals. My goals, is accomplished with him.
Awesome. So now, how did you start up Startupcircle? Was that in relation to Aspire IT, or you felt the itch to try something different?
Startup Circle is not, connected, I guess, to Aspire IT. Startup Circle features entrepreneurs on a daily basis through live Q&A sessions and connect those entrepreneurs with aspiring and starting and even growing founders for live Q&A sessions. We limit it to 3 people so that those who join can get the most value from those sessions, not just ask questions, but also ask follow-up questions. And the vision here, Chi, really is to have this reference or resource for entrepreneurs to join multiple live sessions in the day, connect with many entrepreneurs, get value, and learn and apply, get answers that truly apply to them. So I created Startup Circle really to solve this problem of connecting very successful entrepreneurs with founders who may not easily be able to access their resources and their advice. Some of them don't coach or consult. Some of them, would charge a lot of money for their time. I was the middle person. I am the middle person right now. And starting next month, what we're going to do to make it even better for the entrepreneurs who are on Startup Circle is allow them to interview who they want to interview. So this way we can also connect them with the founders in a direct way as well, in addition to being attendees if they're interested in doing that.
Oh, so what you're saying, the audience now becomes they become the middleman like you. So you give them the opportunity to say, hey, I want to interview Neil Patel, for example, and then you connect them with Neil Patel.
Through Startup Circle, of course. Yeah. So they have to be. We'll train them. We're not just going to throw them there, and we'll train them. We'll show them. Xenia, for example, who's been active at Startup Circle and over the past month, joining many sessions. She's going to be interviewing someone next week, and we want to have those kind of things happen more often because that is what's going to make it scalable. Otherwise, if I am the one involved in interviewing every single person, that's not going to be possible. I do about 3-4 a day, and if we want to get to 50, 100 a day in different regions with different languages, I cannot be the only one doing this. Chi, I'm sorry, I want to add something else about Startup Circle. Sure. We talked about doing things that don't scale, right? So someone else probably would want to create this platform that can connect with a video service provider, would have memberships, would have subscription, would have verification. All I needed to do was solve the problem, and that problem was high quality entrepreneurs will rarely give their time and attention to aspiring, starting, passionate founders. So all I had to do was connect the two, and all I needed for that was an account at Zoom. It cost $14 a month, and I got the yearly one, so I get discounted ones. And then a way to capture the email addresses of people and connect them with the right sessions. So instead of doing all the verifications, I always make sure that those who join are people that really need to be there. Okay. All I do is when they create an account, I tell them, get back to me with your most active social media account. I verify who they are, make sure they're real people, really interested in learning. And I tell them then, here's the upcoming sessions. We have, 50 coming up. Select 1 or 2 or 3 or as many as you want, and I'll send you the link privately. And it's on a first come, first serve. We want to limit it to 3 people so that those who join can truly benefit from the sessions. Otherwise, I might as well do a Facebook Live or YouTube Live, which is I don't want it. Something won't really help us accomplish the goal.
Yeah. And now the follow-up question to that is, so what is the value to the entrepreneurs you bring on or you ask to say, hey, we want to interview you? Because I would assume that if you're talking to like a high-level entrepreneur and they've seen your work and they've done a little bit of research, they say, okay, yeah, this Abdo guy seems cool and he knows what he's doing. I'll go interview with him. And then it's now like, okay, instead of Abdo, it's some young person that I don't know that's going to interview me. So what's the value for that person?
I think this is a great transition to the Bootstrapping Summit. So let's start from here. The value is 2 things. First of all, exposure. Exposure to the Startup Circle community, exposure to the people that are going to be joining us, today, tomorrow, the next day, a month later, a year later, and so on and so forth. The second thing is is expertise. Gee, people like to be experts. The least we can do is highlight their expertise.
Yeah.
When we just put them on that screen and highlight their achievements and tell people who they are and feature them to the world, that's already a very big advantage or that's already a strong argument for them to come on and talk to us. Now, you asked about, what's the value of them getting on an interview with maybe a young entrepreneur or an experienced entrepreneur. Well, the value is going to be exactly the same. It's expertise and it's exposure. Now, it's just going to be a different person. And I think they would appreciate that we're putting someone who is, rising and passionate and has done a lot of research about them and has prepared questions to come and do an interview with them. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing. We're highlighting their expertise and we are featuring them to a big audience.
Okay. So basically, you're getting someone that is really excited to talk to the person, and that person must have done thorough homework.
Yeah.
In order to be there, because it's not just, hey, so tell me about yourself, and hey, when did you start your company? Why did you call it Groupon? Okay, very cool. Very cool. And then I guess, like you said, that's a very good segue to Bootstrapping Summit. So let's spend time a little bit and talk about, hosting online events. Bootstrapping Summit. I saw that you interviewed over 100 people. What led you to create the Bootstrapping Summit, and why do you think this is such a very important but underutilized channel that most people are not leveraging today?
So, the way I describe it, I think creating an online event is every entrepreneur's opportunity to a 3-month overnight success. It's an excellent way to accomplish a bunch of things at the same time in a relatively short period of time. So here's what you can get out of hosting an online event. First of all, connecting with world-class leaders, entrepreneurs. That is one thing that is extremely valuable. You get to know them, they get to know you. You have built a relationship with them in the future. If you're looking to launch anything or partner with someone, you've already built that connection. You already have a thread with them. Second thing, instead of fighting for the attention of their audience, you are leveraging their audience, you are leveraging their expertise to attract their audience. So in other words, one of the ways you actually build this online event or summit is by kindly requesting from your speakers to share the event, their interview with their audience. People wouldn't mind sharing with their audience if you highlight their expertise and give them their exposure. Because here's the thing, when you highlight their expertise, you're not highlighting their expertise to their audience, you're highlighting their expertise to 100 speakers' audience. And they want that. So they wouldn't mind sharing that with their audience. Now, when you bring that audience comes to you, now you have an audience yourself. Now they have built a trust with you. Haven't seen you talk to an expert like that. You have already strengthened your personal brand in the space and you've built trust with their audience. When you have that audience, now what you can do is you can launch other products and services. You can pre-sell ideas. You can, test ideas. You can do whatever you want to do with the audience that would obviously help them. So why launch an online event? For all of those reasons. This is not the first time I do it. I've done it in different variations in the past, but this was the first time I personally and individually commit to doing it by myself 100%. And thanks to 100 interviews, which I conducted in about 50 days, not even probably 50 days, I was able to pre-sell maybe, $8,000 or $10,000 monthly services from the people who came, in addition to the $5,000 to $6,000 of the ticket purchases for these events online.
All right, so hold on a second. That you just said something very interesting there, and you said you were able to sell or pre-sell $10,000 a month, right? In services to the guests that you invited to speak.
No, to their audience.
To their audience, okay.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
okay. And then, so I'm looking at your article you wrote for entrepreneur.com, and it says here there are 6 steps to creating an online event that is going to be impactful. So tell us a little bit more about those steps, or do you want me to read it out to refresh your memory?
Yeah, let me refresh my memory to actually know exactly which ones I have picked.
Okay. So you said here, define the topic, list 100 potential entrepreneurs or speakers, reach out for an interview, ask them to promote the event, and then recruit promotional partners and be different.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we can start with the first one. So defining a topic. It can be a general topic, but the more specific you are, the better.
Yep.
Because one of the things, for example, I talk about the goods and the bads of the recent launch of the Bootstrapping Summit. The Bootstrapping Summit, bootstrapping is very general. There are people that are bootstrapping technology startups. There are people that are bootstrapping small businesses. There are people that are bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means self-funding without external funding. You are personally investing in launching this product or service. So the more specific you are, the better, because you may get a lot less people than your target, than who you wish to have. But the people that get, thanks to the promotion of those speakers, are going to be more likely to convert in the future to buying products and services because they came for a reason. For example, if I said bootstrapping, perhaps lead generation companies, lead generation services, then the people that are going to learn about lead generation specifically. And then later, when you launch a course about how to leverage your marketing skills to launch a lead generation business and generate $5,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue, then a lot more people are going to listen to you. So first of all, picking a topic, the more specific you are, the better.
Okay.
Any questions about that before we move?
No, go on.
All right. The second thing is to list at least 100 potential speakers. Now, you don't need 100. I've seen a lot of online events that have launched with 20, 30 speakers and have done very, very well. But listing 100 potential guests is going to be important, because out of the 100 pitches that you send, most likely you're going to get about 30, 40 confirmations of people who are interested in joining you. So list 100 people and then reach out to them. How do you find those 100 people? One of the ways I found easy is back to our initial conversation about finding a channel with the least friction. In this case, finding a channel with the least friction means that people have been on other online events. So I don't have to explain what an online event is. I don't have to explain its benefits. I don't have to explain exposure and so on and so forth. All I have to tell them that this is going to be for an online event that I'm going to be featuring you on, and I would love to have you on. When I got their confirmation, booked the time and date, and then we're good to go. Step number 3, and if you have any other questions, please let me know. All right, reaching out for an interview, we talked about that. Ask them to promote the event. Now, this is the most important part of all. If they don't promote the event, then we still benefit our audience because we got them to speak about a certain topic in details, but we're going to leave so much on the table. So asking them to promote the event is going to be key here, and it's very important to mention this promotion as early as possible. At least note to it in the beginning that we would really be inclined, if you could help us promote, would you be interested in doing that? If they said no, or if they're not interested at all, or if they don't answer, now feel free to still interview the person, but you want to have as many promotional partners or promotional guests as possible. That is going to be 90% of going to be the channel that's going to bring 90% of people to your event, and it's going to help so much because people that come through them have already some trust built in the meanwhile. They trust who is recommending them, and therefore they're going to trust you, and they're more likely to convert later on when you want them to buy something.
Okay. So one thing I want to ask you here is that, so promotional partners are not sponsors of the event, are there a channel for you to monetize the event, or is it basically, hey, we're running this event, we need you to send this to your list, and then in exchange we'll feature you prominently on the website, etc.?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it's an option. It's your choice. So it's your decision. For me, I decided that it's more valuable to me to get people to the event, and then a percentage of them would hopefully convert into coaching clients that I can help take to first paying customers, than having to negotiate and discuss the rates and all those things. So I went to a few of those promotional partners. So there's a difference between guest promoters, or those are the guests that come and send to their list, and promotional partners. Those are companies. Yeah. A few of those companies are the founders of a few of those companies were founders that I interviewed, by the way. Yep. And then at the end of the conversation, I told them, would they be interested if I could promote their company as well. But many others, I cold emailed and told them told them about the Bootstrapping Summit, who's going to be on, the names, and how I'm going to be able to promote them. And in exchange, I would like to get 2 dedicated emails to their audience a week before the event and a week and the week of the event, and I sent them the copy. So I made it as easy as possible. I did the same thing with the guests. I sent them the copy. All they had to do was maybe copy, paste, change a few things, tweak, or if they wanted to send their own, they were free to do that. So that was the channel through which I got most of the people to the Bootstrapping Summit.
Awesome. Now, one of the biggest things after we've talked about it, I can just imagine the listener going, okay, that sounds great, Abdo, but guess what? I don't know the technology to create a summit like this. I don't know how I'm going to jigger several different software to create this and host it and promote this and do Facebook ads and whatnot. So speak a little bit about overcoming the technological challenges in order to get this off the ground. I can see that you're already highly skilled at bootstrapping, so I already know you're going to have a quick method to go around whatever this person is thinking and saying, hey, I need like 1,000 software to get this to work.
No, so again, same approach I've always followed. I did need a landing page. So that landing page was one that my team and I created, my designer designed and my programmer created. But in terms of software, all I needed was a email service provider, so to get people to subscribe, and I needed some place to host the sessions. For me at that time, or for that specific project, I used Teachable. Okay. And that was it. Those are the 3 things. In terms of payment, it was also integrated with Teachable, so I didn't have to worry about that. Literally, that is it. Those are all the things I needed to, technologically speaking, those are the things I needed to launch this project.
Awesome. So guys, I guess there you have it. It's so simple and easy. Anyone can do it. And I think you've inspired me to actually take the leap and do an online event for next year. I've actually thought about it once or twice, but I was just like, between client work, regular work, and just trying to write books and keep up with my podcast, I don't want to do one big event and then find people to interview, but I interview people anyway. I might as well make it a big deal and say, hey, you know what, let's focus on solving a particular problem and let's bring people to the table to actually just sit down for 30, 45 minutes and just give straight up coaching, no background information, just, hey, let's tackle one specific problem. So I think you've inspired me to take that off for maybe the first quarter of next year, and I'm definitely going to look forward to doing that.
It's definitely an investment worth making. I'm actually working. So thanks to that event, I got the opportunity to meet other entrepreneurs who are interested in building an audience, building a personal brand, connecting with leaders, building partnerships. And I started working with Steve, who has 0 audience, who has been a farmer for 37 years. He's got so much knowledge in the space. but wants to start selling digital products and consulting products. And together, we're actually 2 weeks away from launching his online event. And thanks to that online event, he has interviewed 30 of some of the best people or most experienced people in the space, people that he said, it was really hard, to reach out and convince to even consider chatting with him. And so far, out of those 25 people, we have 15 people who have confirmed to promote to tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
Now, Steve, in about 3 months now, started 2 months ago. Within 3 months, he's going to go from zero audience and zero chance of launching a digital product to people to over, I don't know, I'm just going to say thousands of people who will be on his list, who would have trusted him because they saw him interact with those successful people.
Yeah.
They saw him talk about his experience and talk and give insights and give strategies. So for those who are launching digital products, for those who are launching coaching, consulting services, for those who are launching pretty much any type of product, but let's focus on service-based solutions especially. If that is something you're doing and something you want to actually grow, not just launch, I think this is an investment worth making. It will definitely perhaps 10x your expected outcome just from a 3 months investment in time and a little bit.
Awesome. And you know what? You just said it. You can do it in any niche. If Steve is in the farming space and he's doing an online summit, I'm sure it's going to be in his niche, correct? It's not going to be about digital marketing. You can pretty much do an online summit in whether you're interested in crochet, basket weaving, candlestick making. There's an audience for everything under the sun, believe it or not. And it's just a matter of finding where people like you congregate, reaching out to them, finding out who the leaders are in your industry, and then, of course, saying, hey, you're putting something special just for us, our people, our tribe, and say, hey, why don't you come take a listen? If you like what you hear, you know what, you might want to work with me, you might want to work with one of the guest speakers, but hey, you know what, this is all about us and our tribe.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, my man, we've talked almost for an hour, and I really appreciate the conversation. So,
Absolutely.
As we start to wind down the show, I want to ask you just a few wrapping up questions.
Yeah.
Now, my first wrapping up question is this. Looking back on the trajectory of your career thus far, with everything you've gone through and everything you know, what do you think you could have done differently to help you leapfrog your success?
Focus. It's focus, Chi. Here's what I mean by that. You could be doing many things at the same time, and you could do okay at many things, but you will never do exceptionally well on anything. If I had focused on accomplishing one single goal, let's say the example of Recycler Spotter, for example, if I had focused on that venture for maybe 2-3 more years, I would have probably exited the company with a 7-figure exit. But I decided not to focus. Aspire IT as well. I focused on working on many projects, and then I started my other ventures on the side. I have entrepreneurs.com, for example, where I have where entrepreneurs can access over $23,000 in combined savings from over 90 of the best products on the market. It still exists right now. I launched Amateurpreneur, actually acquired Amateurpreneur, but then I grew it, which is a Slack group with over 2,800 people. I launched Guides.co. Actually, Startupcircle was different. This is another iteration of Startupcircle. But if I had focused, I would have definitely leapfrogged my career maybe 2-3 years. So whatever you're doing right now, focus on it, and you will definitely reach your goal a lot faster.
Awesome. And on that note, what would you think has been the biggest lesson you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey when it comes to online events and doing things in the consulting space? What's the biggest lesson you learned based off of everything you know and the people you've interviewed and talked with?
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you what I learned, Chi. One of the first things I'll talk from the perspective of the people I've interviewed, which are, hundreds, but then I'll talk from my own experience. Mm-hmm. What I've learned is, focus is important, but it's all about consistency. You may go back and forth here and there for a few months, for a few years, and maybe focusing on the wrong thing. But the number one thing that is consistent across every single person I spoke with, and including me, is that the results or their success story or their success happened 10, 15 years later. That's what I've learned. I learned that it's all about consistency. Business is all about consistency. So whoever is listening to us and watching right now, if you truly believe in what you're doing, if you're passionate about it, just forget about the results. Forget about short-term results. Have, of course, short-term goals. Try to accomplish those short-term goals. But then, think about 10, 15 years from now. Here's the difference between entrepreneurs and those who have full-time business or have full-time jobs. You may start with, $100,000 to $300,000 a year job, but it's likely going to be, that depends on the industry, but it's likely going to be there, maybe increases by 5% a year for, your whole life. Now, as an entrepreneur, you might start with 20,000 this year, but you may go to 80,000 next year. You may go back to 50,000, but then you can go back to 400,000. You could go back to $1 million, $2, $3, $5 million. So those who are like you and have jobs and secured and all those things, at the end of the day, they're not, really secured because they're just following a path. Your path is to work for your next 10 years, next 20 years. You get a lot better results in the future if you commit to what you're doing, if you're consistent at what you're doing.
True. And adding to that, I'd also say it's not everyone that has to, jump into bootstrapping or their startups right away. You can also do it in such a smart way where, okay, maybe you work, but then you also focus on your free time and say, I'm going to cut out Netflix. I'm going to cut out going to the bars and pubs. I'm going to spend the 4 hours in the evening when I get back from work, maybe eat, rest, and then work on my business to the point where once I start getting those 3, 4, 5 customers through doing non-scalable work, I can now transition. Because I know where a lot of young entrepreneurs miss it is that they hear, oh yeah, just go bootstrap and then you make a ton of money and then you go. I want to also couch it with the fact that Abdo is doing it the smart way. Many people do it the smart way. You have to also sit down and think and say, hey, Bank of America needs to get their credit card payments, or you have to pay rent, or you have to buy food. So just focus, be consistent, but also be smart about your time management is I think the one key thing that we haven't added to this. And just make sure that, Netflix and all those TV shows will always be there whenever you get back and you have free time. But the time you have to invest when you're young and when you're energetic is now. So rather than focusing on going to bars, clubs, or whatever, just sit down, grind it out. Yes, your friends will say, oh, you're being boring. But guess what? 5, 10 years down the road, when you're sitting pretty in your Lambo or whatever, then we'll know who's actually chilling and who's actually having to slave away to get a 2% raise every year. So
look, go ahead, Chi.
No, fine.
I wanted to mention something about like a current example. I'm working with Jan. He currently holds a full-time job. He is in Germany right now. And
Jan Koch?
I'm sorry?
Jan Koch?
No,
okay.
Jan Benedict. Okay. We started working 2 months ago. He still has his 50-hour week full-time job, and we start talking. He's always wanted to pursue a career in entrepreneurship, and we started quantifying what that means. We told him, I told him, first of all, you have to completely forget about that because you still don't even have a viable solution. You still don't even have a first customer. One of the things I found over the years is that most of us think about our 100th customer. We don't even have one customer. So we forgot completely about that. 2 months later, he's generating 7,000 euros a month in recurring revenue. And now we started having that conversation. We said, what is your quit your job number? Is it $10,000 a month for 3 consecutive months? Is it, $5,000 a month for 5 consecutive months? What is that number? Now you can start quantifying things. Now you can start having projections and you have a clearer direction. But in the beginning, absolutely, you don't even consider quitting your job. No matter what you're doing, even if you're starting a small business that requires a lot of your involvement, a lot of your time. You start on the side, you do it for as long as you can. Once you get some traction, once you get some consistent traction, now you have some historical data. This historical data you can use to project when you could possibly quit your job and focus 100% of the company. Now, if Jan reaches his $10,000 mark a month, then he knows that if he quits his job, he's going to be able to get that to $20,000 because he has all the time in the world, and he would be able to obviously support himself and his family. So that's my my example about that, and it's very important. I mean, it's very important to minimize risk. And reduce it as long as you can before committing 100%. There are ways to alleviate business risk. There is always risk, but there is a way to alleviate business risk.
And as we say in finance, you can hedge away everything. So
exactly,
it's better to make that hedge than to just jump in, because that's one thing. Because even till today, I've actually met 40-year-old entrepreneurs who say they're just going to quit their job cold turkey and then go start a startup. And I'm like, dude, you have a mortgage, you have car notes, you can't just go cold turkey no matter how much you hate your job. You have to do this strategically. So if 40-year-olds are making that mistake, I can guarantee you college students, 20-year-olds are also making that mistake. So let's just help everybody stay on the same path to entrepreneurship and say, hey, you know what? Do it smartly, hedge your bets, and then you'll be successful. And then when you have all the free time after you've transitioned, you can just, hockey stick that growth to infinity.
Exactly. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah. So with that said, Abdo, it's been a pleasure having you on the show for the past 1 hour. But before I let you go, do you have any final words of wisdom? And where can people find you and reach out to you if they want to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Absolutely. So my last words are going to be the following. You have a skill, no matter how entrepreneurial you are, whether you are in that right extreme or left extreme, you have a skill that you have to leverage, really. I always say that, even if we love our jobs, even if we love what we do, people need you in the world, really. Sometimes you have things that people would benefit greatly from and would gladly compensate you for your time. So whatever you do, don't hesitate to leverage your skills to serve people, get compensated for it, even if you do it on the side. And obviously, if you want to commit to it full time, then it's a different story. We just talked about how to do that. Start on the side, minimize risk, calculate your quit my job number, and then when you get to that point, you can quit at ease. If you want to learn more, actually, I have calls with entrepreneurs every day. I put my calendar in the homepage, in the beginning section of the homepage of my website, which is abdoriani.com, Abdo, A-B-D-O, Riani, R-I-A-N-I.com. Find me there, book a 30-minute call. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a quick call. And I look forward to helping you out and contributing to the success of your entrepreneurial journey. I look forward to speaking with you. That's it.
Awesome. And in addition to all that, you can also find Abdo. He's a contributor to entrepreneur.com and to several other large publications around the internet. So he's always repeatedly sharing his words of wisdom and his knowledge to help you be the best entrepreneur that you can be. So if you don't go to startupcircle.co, and if you don't get on his website, you can also find him in Entrepreneur. And then when you've learned more about what he does and you're comfortable with him, you can also reach out to him. He's easily accessible. Connect with him on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. So With that said, my friend, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've taken a bunch of personal notes for
Wow.
myself and not for the audience. So I love doing this because I not only get a lot from the interview, I get a lot personally, but
Same.
then I also have to share with the audience. But honestly, I do this just for myself. So
Yeah.
I really want to thank you for coming to share your story and your words of wisdom with the other bulletproof audience out there.
It was my pleasure, Chi. Thank you very, very much for having me on. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to another exciting episode of the Bulletproof Entrepreneurial Podcast. If you love this episode with Abdo Riani and you're loving the podcast in general, please leave a review and a comment on iTunes. It helps other great listeners like yourself find the show. And of course, you can also give us some ratings and 5 stars on wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, whether it's TuneIn, Podbean, Amazon Echo, Google Play, Overcast, wherever. We're on over 100 podcast distribution platforms out there, and your reviews, your comments, and your likes and your shares helps other listeners find the show, so that way we can continue to bring more great guests to come and share their stories that are going to inspire you and give you those hidden secrets of success that you need to get on the path to success for whatever business journey you're on right now. So with that said, I wish you a very, 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 very excited and prosperous 2019. I know this is going to be a year where you break all the chains and make things happen for yourself. And I would love to hear your comments and your questions, and just give me a shout out. Send me an email at chi@odogwu.com. That's chiodogwu.com. So you guys being the listeners, I do this for you. I don't put any ads, I don't put any comments in here, I don't put anything commercial. I make it so that, I get the meat of the story and I can send it to you unvarnished. But of course, it does take a little bit of time and effort to, reach out to guests, to put the show together, edit, package, and everything. So if you could do me a small favor just by, sending me your emails and your comments and saying, hey, Chi, I love what you're doing, keep up the great work. It really goes a long way to making sure that this podcast keeps on going and growing. So with that said, guys, wishing you a very, very happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and of course a prosperous, exciting, providential, and supersonic 2019. I hope you crush it this year with whatever you're doing. And of course, if you're going to change your life, please do it with style. Till next time, guys, cheers. Bye.